It was one of those silent silver mornings in the city, when wealth and loneliness shared the same roof. Inside a sprawling glass mansion overlooking the skyline, everything gleamed: the marble floors, the art pieces that cost more than most people's homes, and the silence that came with having everything money could buy, except peace. Ethan Cole, a 36-year-old billionaire CEO known for his ruthless decisions and unmatched success, lay motionless on the couch in his penthouse living room. His expensive suit jacket was half draped on the floor, a glass of untouched scotch rested beside him, and his eyes were closed, not in rest, but in an act. He wasn't really asleep. He was pretending. Why? Because for days, something had been bothering him. His new maid, a timid young woman named Clara, had caught his attention. Not for beauty or charm, but because she was different, quiet, careful, and almost too kind. Unlike the others who'd worked in his mansion, she never complained, never gossiped, and never looked him in the eyes longer than necessary. She just did her work, perfectly, gracefully, and with a strange sense of sadness that Ethan couldn't ignore. That morning, he decided to test her. He wanted to see what she did when no one was watching. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the beauty of the human heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more real, emotional stories to life that remind us how fragile and powerful the human spirit truly is. So, Ethan laid there, eyes closed, pretending to sleep. Clara entered quietly, holding a small tray with a cup of tea she always made for him before leaving for the day. She thought he had fallen asleep after another long night of work. She placed the cup gently on the table beside him, her movements soft, almost reverent. But then, she did something that made him freeze. Instead of leaving immediately, Clara knelt beside him. She looked at his face for a long moment, her eyes filled with something between sadness and empathy. Then, with trembling fingers, she adjusted the blanket over him, the one that had slipped to the floor. Her hand brushed against his arm, and she whispered softly, "You look tired, sir. I hope you find peace someday." Ethan's chest tightened. No one, not a single soul in years, had ever said something like that to him. People feared him, envied him, admired him, but no one wished him peace. He kept still, holding his breath, as Clara sighed quietly. She took a small folded piece of paper from her apron and placed it beside the teacup. "And no, you won't read this," she murmured. "But thank you for letting me work here. It means more than you think." Then she left, quietly closing the door behind her. When Ethan opened his eyes, the mansion felt colder than before. He unfolded the note. Inside was a short message written in neat, uncertain handwriting, and sometimes, even people with everything are the loneliest. "I clean your home every day, but I wish I could clean the sadness I see in your eyes too. You remind me of my father. He worked too hard, loved too little, and left too soon. Please, take care of yourself." For the first time in years, Ethan didn't know what to do. His throat tightened, and he felt something he hadn't in a long time: guilt mixed with gratitude. The next morning, when Clara returned, he didn't confront her. Instead, he observed quietly from his office camera, watching her move through the rooms, humming softly while she cleaned. She wasn't like the others. She treated every corner of the mansion as if it mattered, as if even dust deserved care. Days turned into weeks, and his curiosity became something deeper. He noticed how Clara never used the mansion's food, even when he offered. She always brought her own small lunch, usually just bread and soup. One evening, when heavy rain began to pour, Ethan saw her standing outside at the gate, waiting for the bus that never came. He watched from the window as she hugged her thin coat tighter, drenched but still patient. Something inside him broke. He called his driver but then stopped himself. No, he didn't want to embarrass her. Instead, he walked out himself, umbrella in hand. "Clara," he said softly. She froze, startled to see her powerful employer outside, soaking wet. "Sir, I'm sorry. I didn't," she stammered, her voice trembling. But Ethan simply handed her the umbrella and said, "Oh, you'll catch a cold. Take it." She hesitated, clearly uncomfortable taking anything from him. But when he added, "Please," she nodded and whispered a thank you. That night, she didn't take the bus. He insisted his driver drop her home. And as the car pulled away, Ethan stood by the window, watching the city lights blur in the rain, feeling something unfamiliar. Warmth. The next day, Clara came early, looking uneasy. She returned the umbrella, carefully dried and polished, and said she couldn't accept gifts. Ethan smiled faintly and told her it wasn't a gift. It was gratitude. But as she turned away, he noticed something in her eyes, fear, not of him, but of life itself. That evening, after she left, Ethan asked his assistant to look into her background, just to understand her situation better. What he found left him speechless. Clara was a single mother. Her little boy, 7 years old, was battling a rare heart condition. The medical bills were enormous, and she was working 2 jobs just to keep him alive. Her husband had abandoned them years ago. Ethan sat in silence for a long time, feeling shame crawl up his spine. While he had been testing her for loyalty, she had been fighting for survival. The next morning, he couldn't look at her the same way. He noticed how tired she looked, how her hands shook slightly while cleaning. One afternoon, while she was polishing the staircase, she suddenly fainted. Ethan ran to her side, calling for help. When she regained consciousness, she tried to apologize, terrified she'd be fired. But Ethan told her gently to rest. He gave her a week off, fully paid. That night, alone again in the mansion, Ethan couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about her note. "I wish I could clean the sadness I see in your eyes." He realized she was right. He had built walls so high around his heart that no one could reach him. His wealth was a cage, and his pride the lock. But Clara, with her gentle heart, had somehow found a way in. He made a decision the next morning. When Clara returned a week later, she found an envelope waiting for her on the counter. Inside was a check, an amount big enough to cover her son's surgery, plus a letter that read, "One for the woman who reminded me that kindness isn't weakness, and that hearts heal faster when they're touched by compassion. Let me return what you unknowingly gave me, hope." Tears welled in Clara's eyes. She tried to refuse, but Ethan insisted. He told her that some debts weren't meant to be repaid, only shared through kindness. Months passed. Her son's surgery was successful. She continued working for Ethan, but their relationship changed, not in a romantic way, but in something more profound, mutual respect and quiet care. One day, she brought her son to visit. The little boy, fragile but full of life, shyly handed Ethan a small handmade card that said, "Thank you for saving my mommy's smile." Ethan turned away for a moment, blinking back tears. For years he had built empires, closed deals worth billions, but none of it compared to that tiny card. Life inside the mansion changed after that. The cold marble halls felt warmer. Ethan laughed more, smiled more, and even joined Clara and her son for dinner sometimes. He began funding scholarships for struggling single parents and created a new charity foundation in Clara's son's name. One evening, Clara found him once again dozing on the couch after a long day. She smiled, remembering the first time she had seen him pretend to sleep. She quietly covered him with a blanket, placed a cup of tea beside him, and whispered, "Oh, you finally found peace, sir." He opened his eyes and smiled faintly. "Thanks to you, Clara." From that day forward, the mansion no longer echoed with emptiness. It was filled with laughter, gratitude, and a reminder that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can awaken the biggest hearts. And so, The rich CEO who once tested the shy maid learned that true wealth isn't counted in millions. It's measured in moments of humanity, compassion, and second chances. If this story touched your heart or reminded you that kindness can change lives, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us spread more stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Special request? Comment below. What part of this story moved you the most? Was it Clara's quiet kindness or Ethan's transformation? We'd love to hear your thoughts, because sometimes the smallest gesture can save a life.